to the ADNA, the Audio Description Network Alliance. Today, we're very happy to have a bonus episode today with filmmaker Doug Roland. Thanks for joining us, Doug.
Hey, thanks for having me, Roy. Pleasure to be here.
It's so great to have you, especially with your Academy Award nominated film it's already out. It's actually, I saw the website and it's got the audio description version and the other film. And let's start off by asking you what you love about audio description.
Well, Feeling Through was actually my introduction into audio description in partnering with the Helen Keller National Center and a number of people in the deafblind community and wanting to make sure the film was as accessible as possible. That's really when I learned about audio description. I think I might have encountered it in passing prior to that, but it wasn't something that I really knew much about. So this was a beautiful reason to really dive into it much more deeply and really learn about audio description in an intimate way. And what I really love about it, from having actually created the audio descriptive track for Feeling Through, I actually love the process of that. I thought it was like a really creative and interesting endeavor, and made me have to really think about and look at the film in a very different way. I feel like I learned more about the film from doing it, actually, and really started to appreciate the art of it. How specific you need to be with your word choice and sentence structure to make sure you're capturing the images in the most authentic and best way possible, obviously given the short amount of time you often have to paint that picture through words. And I thought that was like a really interesting and challenge and a creative challenge and a really unique way to look at and experience a film.
And for you to say that it's a art, I'm curious about your assumptions about what audio description is when you first heard about it versus after experiencing it with your film Feeling Through. What was something that stood out for you that changed based on those assumptions?
That's a great question. I think before I really dug into it, I think in the back of my mind, I just thought, it'll probably just be like a slight alteration from like the screenplay. You know what I mean? Like not just thinking, it's like basically kind of like reading the screenplay. You're just reading the action lines, but it's like really not that, certainly you can work off that to kind of as a starting place, but it's really, really a completely different endeavor. And quite frankly, like much more of an art, and much more challenging than I thought, before setting out to do it. I'm not saying that I wouldn't encourage filmmakers, particularly filmmakers who are working on a budget, to try their own hand at it, but like really only do it if you're going to really take the time to really study audio description first and foremost. I watched a ton of audio described films and clips before even starting to try to create it for Feeling Through, because there's really an art to it. And then I also had several other people who are writers do their own version of writing up the audio description of the film so that I could get a sense of how other people were seeing the film. I didn't want it to only be like my lens. I wanted to like have it be a collaborative thing to see if there were things that I was missing, that I was almost like maybe as the filmmaker that I was just like assuming like that kind of assumed knowledge that isn't assumed for other people coming to it. And then I combined those into this like one, audio descriptive script, and then I had to tweak it again once I started actually trying to, line it up to picture, and had to shorten some sections that wouldn't quite fit to picture. And it was really an interesting process, and something that like, there's a reason that there's experts, that do this. I was a voiceover artist prior to like voicing it, so that part of it wasn't challenging to me. It was really the creating the script for it, and then like cross-checking that to like how it actually matched to picture. But it was a really interesting process.
Wow. And since you do have that experience as a voiceover talent previously, and still, but in this context, you're pivoting from filmmaker to voice after already writing the scripts for the audio description. When you were reading the script let me start over. As the voice talent reading the audio description, and also as the creator of the film, did you find even changes there? Like you had said earlier, just by working on the audio description script itself, it gave some different perspectives to you. Did actually reading it in your recording of it for voicing it. Did that make a difference as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the biggest challenge is feeling like you've really accurately captured, what's going on in the scene just through your description of it. And I think I started to realize that, in the kind of first stabs at it, that there was something that was being lost, like that was lost in trying to capture the real kind of tone and sense of it. So a lot of the kind of working through it was finding a better way to describe what's happening that felt like it more captured the spirit of what was happening. So I think that was something that was probably, spent the most time, as far as revising it from that sense. And there's still things I look at it and go, yeah, maybe it could be a little bit better. I mean, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, but I think the biggest thing again is just having that only so much time to articulate something. If you were, we've shown the film in so many different contexts. And when we show some of the screenings we've done, one recently that we did for a deafblind organization where all of the participants were deafblind, we actually did a form of audio description where the organization had actually created a much more in-depth and descriptive audio description that was read before each scene to give a context, and then a more the audio description as it lives in our version was happening as the scene was playing. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of I mean, obviously there's the one very clear way to do audio description, but that just kind of opened my mind to a whole other possibility, depending on the audience and what best suited that audience.
It's great to hear that enemy of time with audio description. That's what it's not fair. In between lines of dialogue, it's not enough. And as you had talked about, I think about going to the theater, and the audience that's blind is able to get the context of what the set looks like, what the characters look like, what the costumes feel like, that each of these elements can help inform the experience. And it sounds like that experience that you had with the deafblind audiences, that you were able to expand the creativity of the film even more to be able to open that up even. It's just so exciting. I get it's just great. Let's pivot back to what you had said about watching audio description. When you were watching it as an audience member, knowing that you were in the middle of the process, or maybe beginning, or maybe at the end, regardless of where you were, what was that like for you as a sighted person watching a show with audio description?
Well, I guess at first I remember watching some really great clips and audio described movies and thinking, wow, I would have never thought to describe it that way, but that's brilliant. So I was really impressed initially with, I guess I just made an assumption that it was maybe a little bit more dry and matter of fact. And I thought some of the ones I'd listened to really painted a much more vibrant picture than I was expecting initially. So that was something that I think really woke me up to what it really is, and then really in a great way challenged me to really have to dive into this more deeply if we were going to come out with something that was in any way serviceable.
Can you talk about maybe a specific challenge that you had in that process that you're really proud of how you overcame it?
Well, feeling through such an interesting first film to tackle with audio description, because the overwhelming majority of it is visual. There's almost no dialogue in the whole film, which I think is a challenge and maybe an asset in a sense. I sometimes now think of films that are really, really dialogue heavy and think of that being such a great challenge to audio describe, because you have such small windows of time to insert said audio description. And therefore you have to be even more, to the point, and really have to pick and choose what it is that you're using that window of time to describe. So I think in certain ways, the fact that Feeling Through has almost no dialogue was both a challenge and from a certain perspective made it easier, and depending on how you look at it. But again, because there was almost no dialogue rather, the challenge was really how does this audio descriptive, script and reading of it really capture the tone, alongside, the music and the sound effects, which certainly paint a certain picture. But like, really, it was like, wow, the onus is really on this script and the reading of it in a lot of ways to really carry this film for people who are coming to it solely through audio description. So there's an added challenge there. I think sometimes when you have a lot of the voices of the character, that can kind of really place someone to, like, who they are and kind of what's going on, given their, whatever emotion is in their voice or the pacing of how they're speaking. And when you don't have that, you really have to build out that whole world, just through the script and the reading of it.
Curious about your next film. Based on this experience with audio description, with feeling through, will you consider audio description? Is that a limitation for you, or is it an opportunity? How do you see audio description fitting into your next film? If I could put you on the spot.
Audio description is a part of my next film and every film moving forward. I mean, I'm almost like again, as an indie filmmaker who's making a lot of stuff, out of pocket, that was mainly living at film festivals and then online. It was something I hadn't, for the, in a more insular world in that sense, hadn't come across. But now there's no going back, for sure. And again, it's more of an opportunity. I think, so much of the journey of feeling through has been learning so much more about all of the different elements of accessibility, and audio description is such an important part of that. And I think when it becomes more widely understood, that having a great audio description track to your film will enable so many more people to experience it. I think that's something that will be, when that's more widely understood among filmmakers, I think that'll be something that will be so much more exciting for filmmakers to embark upon that journey, or seek out the right people to create that. Because who doesn't want more people experiencing your film? If you've gone through all that trouble to make it, go that last mile and make sure you have that audio description so that so many more people can experience it.
And with our interviews with audio description professionals and advocates and talents of all kinds, that this is really a unique audience and a unique kind of a approach. I'm curious if you have anything that you'd love to share with our audiences, knowing that it is made up of primarily audio description, whether it's talents or audiences or people curious about it. Is there anything that you'd like to share with them?
I really admire those who create audio description for films. I think, it's such an underappreciated talent and art, and but not underappreciated by me. So thank you to all of you out there who partake in that way. And for anyone who's, the audience side of it, you all know better than me how the difference between audio description that's well executed and not. And I hope the bar continues to rise for audio description. We have so much content out now, and fortunately, I know a lot of these large streamers are, having that be a requirement, or having a lot of their content be audio described now, which is a great step in the right direction. But yeah, I'm hoping that it's something that is really universal at some point, and that the quality and the level of it is really high across the board, because it's such a vital part of content and something that so many people access content through. That's my hope for the future.
Would you be comfortable sharing your webpage, your social media, whether it's for this film or you as a filmmaker?
Sure. Well, people want to learn more about Feeling Through. You can go to feelingthrough.com. We're also at Feeling Through on all the social platforms, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I guess LinkedIn, you probably just, if you type in Feeling Through, you'll find it there too. And then me personally, I'm at Doug Roland on Twitter and Instagram. And that's how you find us. Thanks so much for joining us, Doug. This has been great. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.